we started out with uh, Paul, and Paul told us a little bit about what love is, and and last week we did love God. And how do you love God? Well, the 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 whole ball of wax, so to speak, is, oops, wait a minute, hold on. You love God by loving your neighbor. And because notice the love, and we talked about this last week, okay, God is love, okay? And the love is flowing from God, so to speak, through us, loving our neighbor, loving each other. So really, it's hard to pick this is apart because love God with all your heart and love your neighbor because they're so intertwined. Um, and there's not a whole lot um, there's not a whole lot written about the way that we see it and the way we explain it. So um, I decided, all right, um, we're going to go back just like we did with Love God. We go back to the Old Testament one more time. Okay. Love God and love your neighbor was not original with Jesus. All right. So we go back to Leviticus 19:18.
You shall not bear any enmity against the children of your own people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. And when
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and read Leviticus 19:33-34.
And when a proselyte sojourns with you in your land, you shall not wrong him, but let him be among you as one of you, and the proselytes who sojourn among you. You must love them as yourselves. For you also were sojourners in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God.
All right. Now, okay. Leviticus, all right. Um, love your neighbor. Of course, uh, it was first put out there when the Hebrews, when they were in the desert. Okay. And so uh, technically, love your neighbor did apply to the Hebrews and those strangers, or we just have them called proselytes, who came among them. Okay. But there was no concept of love your neighbor, love the people in the rest of the world. Well, I mean, and technically there wouldn't be because they really weren't aware, except they were aware of the Egyptians, of course, because they had lived there. But that's one of the things that may or may not com confuse some of this stuff about love your neighbor and who your neighbor is. So at that point, like I say, it was just the Hebrews and those who came to live amongst them. And let's see. Okay. So how did we get from the Hebrews and their world to love your neighbor, and your neighbor is everybody. Love everybody. Okay, so how do we get there? Well, um, we go to Matthew 22:39, which of course is the classic. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. And so this is just kind of a way that we got there. It's not really explained that well. And of course, Christianity ignored the Gospels. So anyway, all right. So in Aramaic, the word for neighbor is kawira. Okay. Now, and one of the meanings in Aramaic for this word is kinsman. All right. Well, at the time, and even now, if you read the pure definition of kinsman, it's anybody related by blood, no matter how far removed, all that kind of stuff. But Jesus basically changed all that. And Jesus taught that God is our loving parent. We are all brothers and sisters, and that means all doesn't matter what race, creed, ethnicity, or religion, or politician, or whatever. We are all brothers and sisters. And therefore, all human beings are our neighbors. Now, what I did, I'm got some other scriptures here. Not a lot of scriptures that talk about this, but we know about the 1 John 4:7-8.
My beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God, and everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. He who does not love does not know God, for God is love.
And this is one of the few places where it clearly says God is love. I mean, Jesus, that's what Jesus taught, but this just here is where it says clearly God is love. Anyway, all right. And then we go to uh, John talking about loving one another, which is essentially similar. Okay, go ahead.
A new commandment I give you, that you love one another, just as I have loved you, and that you also love one another. By this, every man shall know that you are my disciples, if you have love one for another.
Okay, now this is John. All right, and Jesus basically here is talking to the disciples. Okay, but it's interesting that, okay, by this every man shall know that you are my disciples. But this also applies to us. Okay, if you present yourself as loving whomever, okay, love one another. If you are showing that, no matter what you're doing, if it's an act of conscience, whatever, it doesn't matter. But what you are doing, and he said that every man uh, would know that you are my disciples. Well, everybody here, if we love one another, that influences others. And uh, although he was talking to the disciples, it clearly applies to us. Um, and I don't know if any of you have had those kind of experiences, but you know, I have some, and sometimes people will look at me like I'm nuts, but that doesn't matter because I planted a seed somehow. And that's what we do when we show kindness to whomever of our brothers and sisters, even to people we don't like. Okay. All right. I would be remiss in talking about who is your neighbor if we didn't look at the Good Samaritan parable again. So, Luke 10:29 to 36.
But as he wanted to justify himself, he said to him, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus said to him, "There was a man who went down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and bandits attacked him and robbed him and beat him and left him with little life remaining in him. And they went away. And it chanced a priest was going down that road, and he saw him and passed on. And likewise a Levite came and arrived at that place and saw him and passed on. But a Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him. And he came to him and bound up his wounds and poured on them wine and oil. And he put him on his own ass and brought him to the inn and took care of him. And in the morning he took out 2 pennies and gave them to the innkeeper and said to him, "Take care of him, and whatever you spend more, when I return, I will give it to you."
Okay. Now, I know we have heard this parable so many times, and we have there's certain other points that come out, but we're looking at here is Jesus is answering the question, who is your neighbor? By telling a parable. And so the main point of this lesson is that a Samaritan, now remember, the Jews hated Samaritans. Okay, so a Samaritan hated by the Jews showed compassion and love. And the Samaritan didn't care who the man was, or, whether he was a Hebrew or a stranger in the territory or what. He didn't care. He just showed compassion and love. So he didn't. And the point is that the Samaritan never stopped to rationalize or think about a rule or whatever. He just had that inner love, and he just did it. It was instinctual for him. So the other lesson here, I mean, this is how love flows. Look, we study, we have to intellectualize everything, and we have to study it, and and we have to explain this and explain that, and we have to think this and think that. And but so the natural flow of love that we all have, remember, we all have that. A baby is pure love, okay? Because, and even with children, until they are taught differently, the love just flows forward. It just flows out of them. So, but the point is, and I guess it would be interesting to know, if we were back then, what the people thought, because most of the people in the audience, I mean, they were Jewish, and they hated the Samaritans. So anyway, Love did not flow from the priest and the Levite. Why? Because they were obsessed with the law that said you cannot touch blood or dead body because it was unclean. So one of the things, and we'll probably talk about it some more each time, but what is it? What is it that stops this natural love and flow of love that should be coming from everybody, even if you're not? It probably comes better from somebody who isn't deeply involved in a religion than it does for some that are. So anyway, just another point from from the Good Samaritan that justifies the fact that your neighbor is not just the guy that lives next door, um, and it's not just the people of your religion. It's not just the people of your race. It is everyone. All right, so now we come to the scripture and uh, and the golden rule. Okay, so Matthew 7:12.
Whatever you wish men to do for you, do likewise also for them. For this is the law and the prophets.
Okay, now the important portion, this scripture is rightly called the golden rule. Okay, it is the core of the law and the teaching of the prophets. When humankind learns to practice the principle of this powerful saying, there will be no need for laws because evil will cease. And envy, covetousness, murder, adultery, and all forms of violence that cause the human family to fail will come to an end. Okay, so the fulfillment of the law, that's what Jesus came for. He did not come he did not come to uh, destroy the law or whatnot. He came to fulfill the law. And of course, we know Jesus was Jewish and Jesus taught from the Torah. Okay. Uh, Contrary to what many might think. And so if we think about this, the two commandments, that's really all that Jesus emphasized. Okay, those two commandments. And let's think about the fact that Jesus' message was spiritual. Okay, love, spiritual, um, things like meekness and turning the other cheek. These are spiritual things, but these are the things that would fulfill the law, and that's what this verse is talking about. Um, if we all loved our neighbor, there would not be a need for any other laws, just like it says there. Um, and interestingly enough, it's like if you if we do practice, and this could apply even on an individual level, if you practice um, the golden rule, then if you have within you whatever envy, um, just negativity, whatnot, that will come to an end. You will feel better about it, and that will come to an end. And as Jesus said, then you would enter the kingdom. You would be participating in the kingdom here and now. So Um, I I thought because I have heard this, people have talked about this, and it's seemingly, like the golden rule, but the silver rule says, don't do unto others as you would not want done unto you. To me, that's a mouthful, and but a lot of people have a problem with do unto others as you would do. Wait a minute, what's the other one? Oh, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Okay. So,
Or do unto
and
others as
this,
have them do unto you.
okay. But this one, don't do unto others as you would not want done unto you. Um, it just appears, and trust me, if you look all this stuff up, you go on Google and you look all this stuff up, it is just beat to death. Okay. And so they had the golden rule, and then they come out with a silver rule, and then they have a platinum rule and all that kind of stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, people trying to understand, but it's so simple. You don't have to do all of that. It's because it's just inherent. The flow of love is it's inherent in all of us. And no, let me see what I have next, and then I'll say. Okay, well, we'll go. Okay, so it's in the Gospels. It was in the Old Testament. It's in the Gospels. Um, the prophets talked about it uh, a lot, but in a kind of different format. But so we go to Galatians, and this is the same thing about the whole law is fulfilled in one saying, that is, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. So a little commentary here on this. If people would only place themselves in the position of the other whom they oppress, cheat, or mistreat, they would come to the realization that they would not like such treatment. So here's one of the things, like how do you love your neighbor or whatnot? And so this says, put yourself in place of them. Another one is you can always find the good in them. And I say, particularly if you know that God is love and that is your belief. All right. Moreover, they would respect the rights of other people, just as they expect others to respect their rights. And the law of compensation is an immutable principle. All acts rebound on the person who initiates them. That's food for thought. Okay. More food for thought, and this was a big emphasis of Dr. Lumps's. Those who take the sword perish by the sword, and those who oppress are or become oppressed. All great imperial powers who violated this principle were measured with the same measure when they were conquered and oppressed by others. Injustices that they had committed were done to them also. So it sort of gives it sort of gives a little push to love your neighbor. But well, let me go to the next one and then we'll. And these are some statements or whatever that's just for us to think about and or put together or disagree with ever. But the love instinct is implanted by the creator in every living creature. A different way of saying, we're all made in the image likeness of God, but the love instinct is there in every one of us. God made us for love, to love and be loved. When we recognize God, who is love, in all our affairs, our life is stabilized and strengthened. We are protected against evil and magnetized to draw all that is good to us. A very strong statement, but very true. And lastly, but not least, recognize God in yourself and in your environment. And we were talking about love love your neighbor as yourself. Well, there's a lot of debate going on out there. Well, what if I don't love myself? And if I can't love myself, then I can't love anybody else. Uh, there's just a lot of debate on that. But that is not, I mean, that's just not true. As a matter of fact, as far as I'm concerned, uh, showing kindness or love, whatever, to someone improves yourself. So that's a whole big debate that but it's very simple. If we can recognize and know that God is love, and we recognize that if we love everybody else, then we are going to be peaceful, harmonious, whatever, and we will be part of the kingdom of God now. We will be in heaven now here on earth, not after we die.
Not
So
will be, we are.
it's well, sure, yeah, right, yeah. Well, in Christian theology, the people are waiting and to go to heaven. So that's what I mean. But basically,
Yeah, but they're teaching that that's an erroneous
well, I know,
teaching.
I know. Um, and so we'll just, well, again, we're gonna continue talking about love, and we're gonna do some practical stuff. But most people don't realize that they are in heaven now because they're all loaded up with theologies, whichever it may be. So, all right, now I found this, and so I just thought this was really interesting, and I want to close. I want to close with this. Okay, love your neighbor. It's part of nearly all religions on the planet. And so I found these, and I'm just gonna. I thought this was so cool. Okay, Judaism. What is hateful to you, do not do to your fellow man. Okay. And then we have Gandhi, which Gandhi, I since I've learned about Gandhi, I mean, he was something else. To see the universal and all-pervading spirit of truth face to face, one must be able to love the meanest of all creation as oneself. Wow, huh? Islam, none of you will believe until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. And then I thought this was kind of, well, it's metaphoric, but I thought it was kind of cute. If somebody stings a bird with a sharp stick, should he first try it on himself and realize how badly it hurts? And then Buddhism has whatever is disagreeable to yourself, do not do unto others. So uh, I just find that very interesting. And we talk about contribution, Jess, but we thank you very much. And so we can talk about any of this if it hits you, any of it. It doesn't matter. But I just pretty much all religions have a golden rule. So why then is the world not filled with love and peace?